In the heart of a bustling city, where dreams were both born and shattered every single day, there was a man named Daniel Carter. He wasn't just any ordinary man. He was the CEO of one of the largest retail chains in the country. But despite his success, Daniel had always been humble, a trait that set him apart from others in his position. People often whispered about how grounded he remained even after achieving so much. They said it was because he remembered what it felt like to struggle. Daniel started out as a janitor at one of these very stores when he was barely 20 years old. Back then, life wasn't easy for him. His parents had passed away when he was young, leaving him alone with nothing but determination and grit. Every paycheck mattered, every dollar counted. And yet, through sheer hard work and perseverance, he climbed the ranks, from sweeping floors to managing entire departments, until finally, he became the boss himself. But something inside Daniel never let him forget those days. It wasn't pride or nostalgia, it was responsibility. Responsibility towards the people who worked under him now, many of whom faced struggles similar to his own. That's why, once a month, Daniel would disguise himself and visit one of his stores undercover. Not to spy on anyone, but to listen, to truly understand what went on behind closed doors, away from corporate meetings and polished presentations. This particular Friday morning began like any other. The sun peeked through the blinds of Daniel's office window, casting golden streaks across his desk. He glanced at the clock, 6:45 a.m. Time to go. Today, he decided, he'd visit the store located downtown. It was one of their busiest locations, filled with employees who poured their hearts into making sure customers left happy. Or at least, that's what the report said. As Daniel locked up his briefcase and slipped into a pair of faded jeans and an unassuming hoodie, he couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety. Excitement because he loved connecting with people, learning their stories. Anxiety because sometimes the truth could be painful. But no matter how uncomfortable things got, Daniel believed in facing reality head-on. After all, ignorance wasn't bliss, it was dangerous. The air outside was crisp as Daniel stepped onto the sidewalk, adjusting his baseball cap to make sure his face was mostly hidden. He walked briskly, blending in with the crowd of commuters rushing to start their day. By the time he reached the store, the line already stretched halfway down the block. This place was always packed, which made sense given its prime location. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Customers moved between aisles, grabbing groceries and household items while chatting animatedly with each other. Employees scurried around, restocking shelves and assisting wherever needed. Everything seemed normal enough, too normal almost. Daniel knew better than to judge based on appearances alone. There was always more beneath the surface. He grabbed a shopping cart and wandered aimlessly, observing everything around him. A young woman stocking canned goods caught his eye. Her movements were precise, efficient, yet there was a weariness in her posture that told a story of long hours and little rest. Another employee, a middle-aged man, helped an elderly customer carry heavy bags to her car without hesitation. These small acts of kindness reminded Daniel why he did what he did. But then, something unusual happened. As Daniel pushed his cart toward the checkout lanes, he noticed a commotion near one of the registers. Curiosity piqued, he slowed down, pretending to browse through magazines as he eavesdropped. "Excuse me," a customer snapped impatiently. "Can you hurry up? I don't have all day." Daniel turned slightly to see a cashier, a young man with dark circles under his eyes, apologizing profusely. "I'm sorry, sir. Just one moment, please." The customer huffed loudly, tapping his foot against the floor. "You've been ringing this item for 5 minutes. Is this your first day?" "No, sir," the cashier replied softly, though his voice carried a hint of frustration. "There seems to be an issue with the price tag. Let me check." Before the conversation could continue, another employee rushed over, whispering urgently to the cashier. Whatever she said caused the young man's face to pale visibly. He nodded stiffly before turning back to the customer. "Sir, I apologize again. Could you wait just a few more moments? We'll get this resolved right away." The customer muttered something under his breath, but eventually relented, crossing his arms and glaring daggers at the cashier. Meanwhile, the young man looked utterly defeated, shoulders slumped, hands trembling slightly as he fiddled with the cash register. Daniel frowned, sensing something off about the situation. Normally, cashiers handled such incidents calmly, knowing exactly how to diffuse tension. Yet this boy appeared genuinely shaken, almost scared. Something deeper must be going on here. Without thinking twice, Daniel abandoned his cart and approached the scene. Is everything okay? He asked casually, trying not to draw attention to himself. Both the customer and the cashier froze mid-motion, staring at him blankly. Then slowly the customer spoke up. Who are you? Some kind of manager? Nope, Daniel grinned sheepishly. Just another shopper. Thought I'd offer some help if needed. The customer rolled his eyes. Well, thanks, but we're fine. Daniel shrugged good-naturedly. Suit yourself. However, instead of walking away, he lingered nearby, keeping an ear open for further developments. Minutes later, the issue with the price tag was finally resolved, and the customer stormed off grumbling about poor service. Once he was gone, the cashier exhaled sharply, leaning heavily against the counter. The female employee who'd intervened earlier placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Are you all right, Jake? Jake shook his head, avoiding eye contact. Yeah, I'm fine. You don't look fine, she pressed gently. What's going on? You've been acting strange all week. Jake hesitated, biting his lip nervously. Finally, he sighed, lowering his voice so only she could hear. It's just my mom's sick. She needs surgery, and I can't afford it. If I lose this job. His voice cracked, betraying the weight of his burden. Tears welled up in his eyes, though he quickly wiped them away. I don't know what I'll do if they fire me. Daniel stood frozen, heart pounding in his chest. Of course. That explained the fear, the desperation. Jake wasn't just dealing with an irate customer, he was fighting for survival itself. For a moment, Daniel wanted to step forward, reveal himself, promise Jake everything would be okay. But he held back, reminding himself that timing was crucial. One wrong move could ruin everything. Instead, he waited patiently, watching as the two employees exchanged quiet words of encouragement. Eventually, Jake straightened up, forcing a smile onto his face. Thanks, Lisa. I'll be okay. Lisa nodded firmly. You will. Now come on, let's finish our shift. As they returned to work, Daniel found himself deeply moved by their resilience. Here were two people battling personal demons, yet still showing up every day, doing their best to keep things together. Their strength inspired him, and also challenged him. Was he doing enough as a leader? Could he do more? By the end of the day, Daniel had gathered plenty of insights. From overhearing complaints about outdated equipment to witnessing firsthand the dedication of his staff, he realized there were areas needing improvement. But none of it compared to the revelation involving Jake. That incident stayed with him long after he left the store, haunting his thoughts throughout the evening. Back in his apartment, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, penning notes furiously. He jotted down ideas for new policies, suggestions for better training programs, and ways to support struggling employees financially. Each word he wrote felt like a step toward redemption, not just for Jake, but for everyone who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Yet even as he brainstormed solutions, doubt crept in. Was he really capable of fixing everything? Could one person truly make such a difference? Doubt gnawed at him, whispering cruel truths about the limits of power and influence. But then, Daniel remembered Jake's trembling voice, Lisa's unwavering support, and the countless others who relied on him daily. How could he turn away? Determined to act, Daniel spent the next several weeks implementing changes within the company. He introduced mental health resources, increased wages for entry-level positions, and established emergency funds for employees facing unexpected hardships. Most importantly, he ensured transparency, encouraging open communication between management and staff. No longer would issues fester silently, ignored or dismissed. Months later, during another undercover visit to the same store, Daniel encountered Jake again. Only this time, the young man looked different, healthier, happier, more confident. Upon recognizing Daniel, who revealed himself briefly, Jake expressed gratitude beyond words. Thank you, he said simply, tears brimming in his eyes. Because of you, my mom got the surgery she needed. Because of you, I didn't give up. Those words struck Daniel harder than anything else ever had. In that instant, he understood the true meaning of leadership, not wielding authority, but empowering others. Not seeking recognition, but creating opportunities for growth. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about striving to do better always. And so Daniel continued walking among his people, listening, learning, growing alongside them. Because at the end of the day, success wasn't measured by profits or accolades. It was measured by lives touched, hearts healed, and dreams reignited.